This week has flown. Where does the time go? Time flies when you're having fun and speaking to you, our Israel Brief family, where you meet me every single Monday to Thursday. And if we haven't met, why not? I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief, brought to you as always by Lay of the Land, where we take a look at those top stories making headlines in Israel. Of course, it has been a very, very busy 7 months. Israel is at war with Hamas. Today marks day 216 since Israel launched its war with Hamas following the atrocities that the terror organization committed on the 7th of October. We know the world has a very, very short memory. We will ensure that it is never forgotten and that we will continue to speak on behalf of the victims and, of course, the hostages. 132 hostages still remain captive by Hamas terrorists. At least it is believed that 97 of them may still be alive, and over 30 of them, unfortunately, have been murdered. Many of them were murdered on the 7th of October and their bodies taken into the Gaza Strip and held captive. Let's take a look at your top stories. And is this a betrayal of a major ally? What am I talking about, you ask? Well, let me tell you. President Biden has said that the United States will halt the transfer of certain weapons to Israel. He says that this is if Israel launches a major ground operation in Rafah. Rafah is in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. It is the last major Hamas stronghold. And we also believe that a lot of the hostages are being held in Rafah. And in order for Israel to complete its military aims, which is to destroy the military capabilities of Hamas, return all the hostages, and to ensure that the security situation is safe enough for citizens to return to their homes, both in the north and in the south, we will need to act against Hamas. Now, of course, this is not being well received, not in Israel, and in certain aspects or certain groups of the American leadership and political establishment. Many are calling Biden in for questioning, why are you doing this? This is not how we treat a major ally. Now, President Biden has affirmed his commitment to Israel's security, but he says that the United States is committed to Israel's security, but will not allow for Israel to carry out an operation in this area. Israel has heard a lot of international criticism for the operation in Rafah, or Rafah as it is pronounced, many opining that it will create a horrendous humanitarian disaster. There is already a humanitarian disaster in the Gaza Strip. The United Nations said at least 80,000 civilians have evacuated from Rafah, as the IDF have been ordering them to do. And I also want to reiterate this. War is horrific. War is horrendous. We are fighting a war we did not want, we did not ask for. It is not a genocide. This fact is backed up by the International Court of Justice. And when you do examine the numbers of casualties, and I really urge you to look at the Washington Institute for Near East Studies, their research around this, the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, their research around this, the numbers do not correlate with what Hamas is saying. So if you don't believe me, please take the time to research this for yourself. It is very important that we understand the facts on the ground and not just give into groupthink, which is the accusation of genocide. We also can't forget that it is Hamas that provides these numbers to the media and makes no distinction between combatant and civilian. Israel's government is slated to meet later today to discuss how to deal with the United States' new attitude towards the war. Meanwhile, of course, there has been a very strong response in Israel. The far-right Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, tweeting out earlier today, Hamas loves Biden. Israel's envoy to the United Nations, Ambassador Gilad Erdan, also saying that this is hugely, hugely problematic. Yair Lapid, the leader of Israel's opposition, has called on Prime Minister Netanyahu to fire Itamar Ben-Gvir, saying that this is not the way that you talk to an ally, even if you disagree. And President Herzog, in an address to commemorate VE Day earlier today, said that sometimes disagreements happen between allies. He says the United States remains our strongest allies, and cautioned against what he called irresponsible and insulting statements on X. So this is where we are at the moment. Let's see how we move forward. But as Menachem Begin once told then Senator Joseph Biden, we are not Jews with trembling knees, and we will defend ourselves. Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that Israel will continue to defend itself tooth and nail. Tonight, our amazing and talented Eden Golan will perform in the semi-finals of the Eurovision Song Competition. If you haven't heard her incredible song Hurricane, which really, really tugs on those heartstrings, please give it a listen. But this is the second batch of semi-finals. And last night, during a dress rehearsal, pro-Palestinian supporters booed her and waved Palestinian flags, despite being told not to bring those flags into the arena, into the stadium where she was competing. Nevertheless, she kept her dignity and composure, continued to practice, and she has also gone on the record as saying, while she is aware of this and while she has received death threats, she also has received a lot of love. So if you are in the countries that can vote, please go out there, Eurovision, look for the site online and vote for our incredible, incredible Eda. Not only does she deserve it, not only does Israel deserve it, she is immensely talented, and the world deserves to hear her talent. Meanwhile, Kan, the national broadcaster which organizes Israel's participation in the Eurovision contest, has filed a complaint with the European Broadcasting Union about the boos. Earlier this week, the authority that puts on and sponsors Eurovision told several performers, one from Ireland, from Australia, the United Kingdom, and from Sweden, not to perform with any pro-Palestinian or political insignia. In very, very heartbreaking news, we have heard from the parents of Noa Marciano, may she rest in peace. Noa was one of the soldiers who was kidnapped from Nahal Oz base on the 7th of October. If you remember, dozens of soldiers were murdered. Some of the female soldiers were burnt alive as Hamas used the accelerant on them. I've been to the base. It is the worst thing I have ever seen in my life. Profoundly traumatic to see the Hamal, the control room. Noa was one of several female soldiers who were kidnapped. Others include Nama Levi, who we know was sexually abused, and Noa's body was recovered by the IDF in November. Her parents are now speaking out, saying it is believed that a doctor in Shifa Hospital murdered her. Let that sink in for a second. Remember, the IDF went into Shifa Hospital and into other hospitals. There is a reason why, and now we know. A doctor at Shifa Hospital is believed to have killed Noa Marciano. When her body was brought back to Israel for identification and, of course, for inspection, the Hamas had said that she was killed in an Israeli airstrike. And while she was wounded by an airstrike and believed to have been taken to Shifa Hospital, her wounds are consistent with bullet wounds or being dropped from a very, very high level. Noah, may your memory be eternally blessed and your blood avenged. And finally, while we're on the subject of hostages, N12 has reported that hostage talks are underway in Cairo. All relevant parties, which would include Egypt, Qatar, who will be representing Hamas, the United States, and an Israeli delegation, are busy with those as we speak. We pray, we really, really hope for a positive, agreed by all parties outcome. Now it's time for the audience question of the day, and it comes from Cheryl Noik. Cheryl wants to know, will there be a air show on Yom HaAtzmaut? Cheryl, unfortunately this year there won't be the annual flyover, which we all love and look forward to every single Yom HaAtzmaut. There will be a very small flyover on Yom HaZikaron Memorial Day, which starts on Sunday night and takes place on Monday at the President's residence in Jerusalem. But the annual flyover, unfortunately, will not happen this year. Many of those pilots are called up. They're busy defending the country, and I think it's also probably not in the right year for the incredible flyover. But hopefully next year we will see those incredible planes, helicopters, all return to Israel's skies. And that's where we leave it for the weekend, guys. Don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our Facebook community is growing. Be a part of it. You can find us at Lottel's site. We are on YouTube right here at the Israel Brief. If you like our content, please consider subscribing by clicking on the red subscribe button. We are on X at layoftheland5. And mwah, I love you guys. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom. And I will see you again on Monday. God bless.